Hello, Polytopians. Welcome to the stream. Today we have another fantastic meeting with Polytopia. This time it's YADAKK Polysseum games, but we also will be reviewing two Polaris matches because this month we had a Polaris week. My name is Adam. You might know me from Polychamps as Gato Azul, aka MijiTube. And also, as always, I have two brilliant players with me that will be commenting the games. It's INNOFUNNI and CHRIS. Welcome to the stream, guys.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you doing today? Ready for some YADAKK and Polaris action?
Absolutely. Oh wow!
Are you actually?
I got some people really upset. Apparently, we scheduled our stream at the exact same time that Fliz has a math exam. So, oh my gosh, guys, maybe we'll have to be back in an hour or something. I don't know.
Sorry.
Can everyone wait for Fliz's math exam to finish up real quick?
You can always rewatch it, so no worries. The live stream will be published, so you can always go back to what happened. Are you actually fans of YADAKK and Polaris? What are your emotions attached to those two tribes?
I'll say that I think both of these tribes get better, and by better I mean more fun to play when you get to map types larger than tiny. And both of us have definitely experienced playing Polaris on tiny and playing YADAKK on tiny, and those games can be quite swingy and quite one-sided. Polaris especially. When you play them on maps with a lot of water, they expand extremely quickly. So it's oftentimes a very exciting early game, similar to YADAKK. However, the dynamics are very different. So I'm excited to run through these games because obviously Polaris doesn't have a navy, right? So their entire strategy is different from YADAKK.
Yeah, could you talk a bit more about their characteristics? I mean Polaris because
do you want to
they are
dive
a
into that?
special tribe, so they have some special things up their sleeves, right?
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I mean, we generally think about Polaris as, an archipelago tribe, but are they really, a water tribe? They're really an ice tribe. They're the only tribe that cannot go on the water at all. I mean, Saimanti's got Raichi at least.
Yeah.
The way they, shape the terrain around them, we saw that a little bit with, Saimanti later, but it's really unique to Polaris. And even in the community, people are just fascinated by this. For the longest time, we've been talking about wanting like a lava tribe, the exact same thing, but thematic in the opposite direction, spreading land through lava and such. Which is Zoifers has been kind of ruthless to the community, making fun of them about that and saying how they don't have any creativity. This is why you guys don't make the game.
Yeah.
But no, Polaris is unique like that, and that's one of the things that makes them so interesting. That's why I'm really excited to watch some of these Polysseum games because Polaris is one of the better studied special tribes, and people really know what they're doing with them. They have it down to a science. It's an art.
Okay.
And
what about YADAKK?
Quite different in the sense that, well, with Polaris, the way I like to think about it is, especially on smaller maps, right? These are played on small. It's quite a scrappy tribe. There's a lot of early game confrontation. There's a lot of investment in units, and we'll get into that more in the games. But their main unit is a 5-star unit, the sled. So they really spend a lot of their stars on units in the early game. YADAKK, on the other hand, has a few more options available to them. Because they start with roads, they're just one tech away from getting trade. So YADAKK is unusually well positioned in some situations to go for an early markets rush and try to get their economy up that way, especially on maps where they might not be land connected in a very easy fashion to their opponent. And because they start with roads, they have the option to build bridges quite quickly. So on maps like continents or some specific lakes maps, you can see some really interesting dynamics where in the early game they can expand across the water with the use of bridges, which is very unique to YADAKK because other tribes would not really consider that investment in roads early on.
And what are the main techs that because we touched a bit with Polaris as it comes to sled, but what's their strongest point as it comes to economy and also with YADAKK? So it's markets, but connected with what? So
Yeah.
what are those other elements of this
So
puzzle?
they for YADAKK specifically, they have a very high fruit rate. They get a lot of fruit in their villages, and that means that oftentimes you'll see organization as a strong first tech for YADAKK. But they also have the benefit of being able to use roads to get road connections to their capital for population without having to buy any technologies. So common openings for YADAKK involve buying organization or maybe fishing and using that for upgrades, but also using roads to supplement that to get even more population. And then from there, YADAKK can look to get farming to get those giants up, or maybe use some of the monuments that they're getting in the first 10 turns to facilitate the first giant in their capital. Because they have roads, it's pretty easy for them to get a Grand Bazaar if they're given enough cities. So that's another path to a giant, especially in their capital. Otherwise, with YADAKK, the trick is balancing your economy and your kind of military and road spending, because if you spend too much on units, you just will never be able to develop your economy. So lots of good YADAKK players will grow their economy a little bit, getting their workshops, getting their level 2 and level 3 cities, and then invest in things like riding or maybe farming or something like that.
What about Polaris? I know.
Yeah, Polaris is a really interesting case because they have access to sleds. Usually you're looking at controlling the kind of map type you have, but they play very differently when they have access to ice on a map like Archipelago than on a map where they don't, like drylands or even lakes, where not all of their cities can connect to ice like that. But on those maps where they're making a ton of ice, you're going to see a ton of sleds supported by Moonies just trying to create ice. It gets interesting in the mirror situation where they're playing a different Polaris, like what we're going to be seeing today, than with other tribes, where it's less of a fight of one side making ice, the other side breaking ice, and both sides trying to control the terrain. Both sides are trying to make ice, but it's about controlling it, and that's interesting because that's something again you're only going to get in a Polaris mirror. Completely unique interactions there.
And the economy?
Yeah. The economy, they have really good options. Big things is that they have outposts. Outposts connect similarly to YADAKK with roads. A lot of people will rush for outposts. Sometimes they can't do that. They got to go into other things. But because they, inherit the terrain of the, opponent, they're really unique in that aspect of like, what are they, picking up from them? Are they picking up a ton of animals and such? But when it's just the, default terrain in a Polaris mirror, they have a lot of different options that they can go into. Lots of people love going into animals. Uh, Archery is, a little interesting with the Polaris case, but people still like it a lot. Gives them an extra option there. But Oregon farming just depends on your resources. You just got to follow those. They really have everything. It depends on whatever the map gives you.
But they are different from any other tribe because they have the ice bank, so it doesn't work the same way as the markets, right?
Yeah, the ice bank is a really interesting thing. A lot of the time it's really difficult to get it put up, but if you're able to get it and then you're able to survive for a few turns, you're going to just like win those end games. Like stars are very important to Polaris.
Could you explain, Chris, how does the ice bank work?
Yeah. So for each level of the ice bank, you can get 2 stars per turn.
Mhm.
And the ice bank levels up the more frozen tiles there are on the map. So it's especially potent in a Polaris mirror because both players are freezing lots of terrain. So if you manage to get an ice bank down, it's immediately going to get, 10, 12, maybe even 15 levels. And you're looking at 30 stars per turn, 30 to 40 stars per turn pretty much right away. And that is incredibly powerful in those types of games, completely game changing. However, the ice bank has a very steep upfront cost. It costs you 20 stars to build, and you have to get trade. And Polaris doesn't really have a fantastic use for roads, especially on maps with a ton of ice. Obviously,
Mhm.
having sleds on roads is useful because if you have your sleds on land and they're right next to ice, then the road will allow them to get onto that ice without using all of their movement.
Mhm.
But aside from that, roads isn't a particularly great tech for them unless they have a lot of land. So it's a lot of star investment to get the bank down. However, as someone who's played a decent amount of Polaris mirrors, I will say that it can be very, very important. But I would expect that the smaller the map, the less likely it is to see an ice bank. Because if 3 or 4 of your opponent's 5 cities are within range of your cities, and they're getting sleds every turn, you have constant pressure on you. So if you take a
Mhm.
few turns and you just don't build any units or you build very few units, you're probably just going to immediately lose the game because of how um, potent sleds are on offense. They can really get a lot of value and stay alive. The best Polaris players, in my opinion, are the ones who you will see lose almost no sleds. They will
Mhm.
just conserve each and every sled, get so much value out of them, and build up an overwhelming advantage over the course of 5 to 6 turns with those sleds. The other thing I wanted to note about Polaris's economy that I think is really interesting in the current meta is that Gami's are a lot worse.
Mhm.
Gami has received a pretty huge nerf in the last update. And that
Because
nerf,
they are generally weaker than the regular giants, right? They have
yes,
30 HP.
but their
Mhm.
defense got nerfed. And
Mhm.
so the problem with that for the Gami is Polaris's main unit is the sled.
Mhm.
And sleds have 3 attacks, so they function like a swordsman. And so attacking into a Gami is no longer really that bad. I mean, you
Mhm.
were doing it before, but it was going to cost you. Like, you were going to have to use a lot of HP off of your sleds to kill the Gami.
Mhm.
Now, sleds trade evenly with Gamis. Um, and that is a huge deal because Gamis just get melted in the current update.
Mhm.
So what this means is that getting an early Gami is much less game changing in a Polaris mirror. In
Mhm.
fact, a lot of the time, Moonies are going to be your primary ice makers,
Mhm.
and Gamis are just there to maybe land an important siege or create a threat temporarily. But they are
Because
no
Gamis are
longer
also slow, so it's kind of similar case with the old crabs, right? So
yes,
they were like they could move just one tile,
yeah,
and now the crabs can move 2 tiles. And with the gummy, you need an extra tech to actually make them faster. So it's not that good trade for it.
right,
We're just getting outranged by Moonies of
Yeah.
Skate, frozen and destroyed.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, pretty much. And the key is that they have 10 less HP and 1 less defense. So
Mhm.
they really are much less tanky than their super unit counterparts in other tribes.
Yep. Any other thoughts? Something that you'd like to share before we start watching the games?
I'm excited. I'm pumped for the games.
Oh
Okay,
yeah,
so let's jump
I'm
in.
ready.
So the mic is yours. I'm adding your screen. I know. Yeah.
All right.
So go ahead. So explain first who's playing, and then let's watch the game. Maybe one
So,
more thing. Sorry. Just
of
before
course.
we start, I set up a poll. So tell us which one do you like more, the traditional YADAKK or the Crime Syndicate Orcas? So go ahead and cast your votes. Thank you. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it seems like our players here have a clear favorite in the regular YADAKK skin. No
Yep.
one's using
Mhm.
the Urkaz right now. But these are both Poly Champs players. You have a Big Dictator Boss Man, otherwise known probably more as Astria, over in the east corner. He's going to be
Mhm.
hosting this one. Yeah, Ronin there. And then Civet from Flames over in the south. Chris, you ready?
I'm so ready. Do you want me to dive into these spawns a little bit?
I'll put some
Sure.
music on.
Yeah, so both of them have
I'm trying to sound
really,
soft.
really nice villages here, very close to their capital. But importantly, because of Civet's early expansion, what we see is that there's probably a village behind this fruit and this fish. And because Civet went for the west village first, this actually gives Astrid an opportunity to contest that village. Whereas it might have gone to Civet immediately.
Something is wrong with your mic.
Yeah. But
Right.
no, Chris is talking about this village right here, and you can see, make sure to use those shorelines. 2 resources here, enough distance from all these other villages. Civet's probably going to go ahead and pick up this village. And if you
Mhm.
compare that over with Astria, Civet looking at 4 villages, not having captured this one yet, to be clear, Astria can still contest that. But 4 villages over here, right next to Civet, versus Astria's 3. It's going to look like an interesting, if asymmetrical game. And right away, YADAKK's the only tribe that you're going to see get a capital upgrade with 3 roads.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
now we can see this traditional opening from YADAKK with both players, right?
Yes. I'm going to use roads for capital workshops from both sides. And Astria is going to go ahead and meet Civet here. Instead of getting a workshop or something else, I'm sure Astria would love a workshop. Picked up Org, helped out getting workshop over here on this city. Then look at all these fruits over here. That's an easy 3rd level on that city as well. But goes ahead and picks up the other warrior because Astria knows looking out for this village. We want to make sure that we can kill this. Civet picks up an explorer,
Chris
and I
is
don't think
back.
that's the direction
Welcome,
that
Chris.
they wanted it to go.
Hopefully everything's working all right.
Yes,
You sound good.
loud and clear.
Awesome. Astria picking up a 4th city as well. That's really nice. Very good density for both players, honestly.
Yeah, eyeing up this city before Civet does even.
Yeah.
Go ahead and turn off shared fog.
And that was the key of Civet's expansion that maybe was a little bit questionable. If he had recognized that there was a village there, he would have gone for it instantly, going towards the center. But now Astria can contest this village. And I think this is almost guaranteed now. If you take a look at Civet's position here, gonna need to buy
no,
climbing
Civet.
if he wants to contest.
Yeah, we don't even need Civet's vision for this yet. It's just with Astria's position. This is why Astria was getting all those warriors earlier. Give up some economy early game. Don't have as many stars, but your stars don't really matter. This is something that Astria, I'm sure, will repeat, has repeated many times. Your stars don't win you games. Your units do. You use your stars to buy units. Astria is not going to look at, theoretically having more stars in the future getting a workshop. That warrior, look at what it's doing right now. If Civet wants to contest this village, Civet's going to have to get 2 units smack over here. They just don't have the tiles for it unless they go ahead and pick up climbing. No one wants to pick up climbing as YADAKK, really. I mean, especially
Does anyway.
Yeah. you just have to. You cannot give up this village.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now it's brutal. Now it's really brutal for Civet to deal with because Astria puts this warrior in front that's blocking, that's making it hard for Civet to do anything. Zone of control with the other warriors south of Astria's city. No warriors can get in to contest that village right now.
Yeah. Do you have the veteran swordsman though, which is going to cause some problems?
Notably, Civet had the option to build a bridge southwest of the village instead of buying climbing, but potentially missed that idea.
The big thing This is why riders are so lovely on these kinds of maps. You don't have access to a ton of tiles. They go in, bounce out. Ooh. It's an interesting idea for the siege.
Yeah, I don't know. Sieging, taking away one
It feels
star.
very expensive, yeah, for a siege on a level 1 city that is.
Yeah, and now Astria
unsieged.
punishes immediately with this counter siege on Civet, and the unsiege is trivial. Gonna pick up an explorer to get the rest of the vision
Yeah,
that he'll need
finally
for
an
this game.
explorer after all those workshops. Just
Yeah,
one
but-
good explorer.
And,
oh
that's
man,
a great
all the way
explorer.
to the lighthouse.
But there is this veteran swordsman waiting to siege Astria.
Indeed, there
Yes.
is. And this is Civet's chance to
Scary.
reclaim that city.
Yeah, because now Austria has those 2 weakened. No,
Population.
Okay.
What you're
Yeah.
thinking about, maybe farming or something, but farming's still not good for a giant here. Now I got, some questions to answer. Like, what do we do about this swordsman? Because not only has it captured the city, we haven't weakened it at all since then.
Was it possible to actually first sacrifice those 2 5 HP and then kill with the other 2, or I'm doing the math wrong?
So from Astra's side, the thing about veteran swordsmen, well, for most units in the game, matter of fact, like let's say warriors, it's really lenient on how much health your own units have. You can calculate it like it'll be like 2 warriors of your own, and it doesn't really matter how much health they have. You can have like an 8 health warrior and a 7 health warrior, and they'll kill an enemy warrior or rider the same as like 2 full health warriors. Starts getting into problems when you have like even a full health warrior and not a 4 health warrior of your own. But the number to remember for a veteran swordsman, which is likely not going to have a defense bonus, but even if it does, the number to remember is 5. You're going to want to have 5 units of yours. If Astria had 1 more unit in range, probably could have done something, even though these 2 warriors are at lower health. But with it being as it is,
yeah, so with the regular swordsman, it could have worked, but with the veteran, no. Okay.
Yeah, the veteran swordsman Astria just did not have enough units in range, so I was not keen on sacrificing those warriors.
And this gives Civet the city advantage for at least a couple turns until Astria captures that village in the west. But Astria's compensation for this is that because of how much time it took Civet to grab that city, Astria has this huge economy, 2 level 5 cities, several giants coming in, level 3 cities as well to Civet's level 2 cities. And because Civet has 2 cities that both took explorers, his economy is not looking so great. But he's going to try to turn that around with this giant.
And his resources also kind of suck because
I'm
there
wondering,
are not many farms.
Yeah, Astria has, Farm City, Farm Central. But what I'm really wondering here is if we're going to see just go for stars, like, I don't know, like fishing, and then what else would you need for a giant after this?
Probably a couple of
Or we might get a wall too. No wall.
I would love to see a wall in the East City, to be honest, since that's where Astria's giant is probably going to be heading right away. And there's almost no way for Civet to get a giant there. Ooh, huge star ruin.
Fishing with ports, I guess.
Yeah, that looks to be Civet's plan. Are we going to see...
No wall.
Oh, no wall. No wall. Mind you, YADAKK has easy access to defenders from organization. So...
Is it going to see the lighthouse? Oh, it was 1 tile off.
Why does this happen so often? Chivalry! Ooh!
Yeah, Astria was pushing for it.
And
Riding Free Spirit last turn, Chivalry now.
Civet can't see it. Buy strategy! The warrior! No! No. Oh, no.
You can't let this kind of thing happen.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's brutal.
I'm getting flashbacks to the YADAKK Polysseum.
Yeah,
oh, gosh.
I remember that game. Okay.
This is why we were so looking into a wall for some of these cities.
Yeah.
Defense. But
And
Definitely.
I mean, Astria plays out the turn, but it looks like Civet already resigned. And oh man, I mean, it's a 5v5 in cities, roughly equal city levels overall. But Astria used the time that Civet took to take his 5th city, the one that Astria managed to contest, to save up some stars, to buy chivalry, to make that position very difficult for Civet. And Civet maybe wasn't score counting, maybe was not thinking that Astria would go for it, and so did not space out the units properly to avoid a massive night chain to end the game.
Was there anything they could have done without the vision, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Some big things like strategically as well.
Mhm.
One thing right here, again, as Chris pointed out earlier, the bridge idea,
Mhm.
a little less expensive than climbing. But more than that, it's not very attractive since there just are not that many animals. But there is always a temptation to go for archery instead.
Mhm.
On these lakes maps, what you'll see is these little bottlenecks where it's really difficult for Astria to get units through here. Like there's only these 3 tiles really. And then after these cities, really only 2 tiles. And they're both, rough terrain. So just by not allowing, let's see the position at the very end here. This warrior, that is the weakest link. If this warrior is gone, the night chain isn't doing anything. Well, not that it isn't doing anything, just that it's not doing enough. The reason that we like archers maybe a little more than riders. Riders have fantastic mobility, but this is what they're up against. Giants. And the archers just a little stronger. Big problem on this kind of map though is still of archers. Not a lot of tiles. Imagine a giant steps on here. You can get like 4 archer hits, and then that's it. The riders, you can go and bounce out. These guys
Yes,
back
so
here.
the audience, Dom Solo says the dude on the top had a much better setup.
Absolutely. Well, this is one thing. I wonder.
Could
Go
you
ahead and
actually
tell us in
remove
the chat.
the fog so we could see the whole
Yes.
map? Yeah.
If anyone in the chat is a fan of Justini Linguini and his channel, he's been doing a series of YouTube polls where he just goes ahead and asks, is blank tribe, would you consider it aggressive? Yes or no? YADAKK was one of the tribes that was a little more split. I think it was like 70% of people when I saw the poll said, yeah, YADAKK's an aggressive tribe. Usually it's like 96% of people say yes. But YADAKK is, generally, let's say, considered to be an aggressive tribe. But I want to highlight the economic utility that YADAKK offers. Now, what we saw with getting knights was a direct result of Astria's long-term strategic plays, like workshop here, workshop here, workshop here, workshop here. Explorer here, but the city's, taken back. Veteran swordsman. Got fantastic vision, got the lighthouse too. Like, that was very useful in picking up a giant for Astria as well. Getting all of these stars, all of these workshops, the reason you're allowed to do that with YADAKK is because you already have roads. It's actually very difficult. People say, oh, you've got roads. You can, go ahead, launch an attack really quickly, get in there, get out. Roads are also a fantastic defensive resource for you. Warriors from like your capital, your second city here. On like a small map, you have your little cluster of cities, and a warrior from the capital, Astria's capital, like with one road, reaches to defend all of these cities. There's no weak points. You're allowed to just go ahead, turtle up a little bit, and then just get a bunch of stars. Wait for the income to keep rolling in. And that's what Astria did. Gets the giants and then just keeps attacking. Just keeps getting more like units that require a ton of stars, like this knight. The knight, there is play around it, like, backing this warrior up, not letting, chain go through. The reason that this happened at all is just because Civet wasn't expecting it. Like, they're YADAKK. They don't have, a tech that upgrades their capital on turn 0 or anything. Like, it's turn 13 that I'm bunching my units up like this. I'm getting ready for the giants to come in. They are not preparing for a knight. You need to be preparing for a knight because YADAKK is uniquely positioned to get this kind of economic stuff going, to get knights this quickly. And they've also got the roads already set up to send them straight through all of your units.
The other bit of counterplay that Civet had in this position was just moving that front line of riders back 1 tile. As Inno mentioned, roads are extremely potent on defense, and Civet's riders can reach the front lines from quite far back as Civet's West City. So Civet did not need to have those riders positioned so far up. They could have been a little bit farther back, and that would have kept them safe.
Okay. So I think we can jump to the next game.
Yeah, nice little appetizer here.
Yeah, that was quite quick. I thought there will be some comeback from Civet, but apparently not. This was too devastating for them. Because, to be fair, Chris, you had a comeback in your game, but yeah.
Yeah, I had counterplay. Civet, on the other hand, not so much.
Yeah.
We've got some Urkaz love in this next one.
We do.
Deep Pie in the south versus Windskate up north. And this looks like it is an archipelago map. Continents. Okay.
Well, this continents map is surely unfortunate for the player in the north, because good grief.
Where is their land? Oh, they both have lighthouse spawns. The one player, with a continent, decides to go ahead and explore it.
Oh, there's land. Okay, they not all hope is lost. Where are the villages, you might be asking? Well, that's for Mijiwan to decide.
Neither player cares about their lighthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just some early game eco. Okay, wait, pause here.
Absolutely.
When I was thinking about this for a little bit.
My goodness.
Take a peek. So there's a shoreline northeast of this veteran swordsman.
Yeah, I'll turn
in
off.
the South YADAKK's vision. And if you know anything about continents, you know that there's one defining feature, which is that there's a 1 tile wide river of water separating the 2 continents in almost every continents match, or maybe every continents match. I'm not sure exactly what the generation is like, but the key here is that this is a moment for this player to recognize that if this veteran swordsman crosses this river and goes onto the opponent's continent, they're denying them a lot of space and cities, because it's a veteran swordsman, but also you're only guaranteed a certain amount of villages on your home continent before you have to go expand and try to take some more from somewhere else. So this would be a very heads-up play to send this swordsman across the river.
We got to see the bridge, please. Then just push west.
Yeah. So no bridge here. Also no lighthouse, which is curious because YADAKK does actually really appreciate a lighthouse.
Another one.
Yeah. This player can't get enough of the veteran swordsman.
Oh, jeez, that was...
Yeah, look how it's opened up, like, from this start. Like, you would love, like, just 1 tile of land, either of these places. But, yeah, there's even room for another village over in the east after this. Let's do a quick count. We got 4 over here on this side. We have 4 already, 5, 6, 7. Very interesting.
There's the lighthouse. Both players kind of growing their economy, getting workshops, not really bothering with getting explorers at this point in the game. Fishing from the South YADAKK, who is at this point down a little bit of economy, but because he's on the water, highly beneficial can start picking up starfish or maybe ruins on the water, can maybe pressure the opponent.
Yeah, one thing I want to highlight is a lot of people might be disappointed if a veteran swordsman if they don't see the way that it immediately punishes their opponent, like, goes after a city or something. Now, there was potential with a bridge here, as Chris highlighted earlier, but it was also just pushing their warriors. Look how much faster, they were the host player, but look how much faster they've been able to explore their continent. They've already captured these cities far off in the west, whereas over in the east here, this village is unclaimed, this ruin is unclaimed, and there's similar distances to these two villages over here.
Mm-hmm.
And just by being pushed off of the ruin.
What makes this a really curious game to me is how unattractive it is for either player to connect their cities together with roads. It's so expensive. It's ludicrously expensive for either of them to do it. So they're opting to grow their economy using mostly tier 1 tax instead. Oh, and there's a nice ruin pickup.
Could you actually switch to the individual? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah. So the orcas have actually no vision.
Yes.
Hunting goes straight after that raft.
Yep, goes ramming, grabs a veteran swordsman rammer. That is terrifying if you were the opponent.
Look
you
at
have so
that.
many cities already, and no easy way to pick up one of those seafaring technologies like ramming or sailing. This is brutal.
We don't even care about the first road anymore that we used to expand out everywhere. We're going to connect through the port. Wonderful. I'm sure we're going to see a Grand Bazaar popping up here soon enough.
Absolutely.
A star ruin too. Okay.
Oh, look at this rammer. This is just brutal. This rammer cannot be stopped.
Terrorizing the capital.
Yeah. That's the other curious thing about this game. Notice how weak both players' capitals are. Hard to defend them from their other cities.
Look at that. This village is all alone, completely uncontested. The one player here, the red player, absolute naval domination. Before he captures the city, though, puts down a bridge. Now, the bridge, first off, gets rid of the fish, gets rid of a resource from them. Second off, gives them an access, because they know, turn off fog for a second completely. We're looking at this, this city is evening things up. Good water control, difficult to, play, like have counterplay to that when they're just shooting you and you can't hit them back. But they still know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 cities here to the 5. They're up a city, and they're going to be getting their Grand Bazaar. They're going to be getting their giants, and etc. etc. They want to push that giant on land where it can do retaliation damage to like a rammer or some such thing, where it doesn't have to spend the turn in a port before it goes ahead, touches the city, does a little less damage, etc. etc. Getting that because they can also go ahead and use their riders, little land units. This is a common theme you'll see. When you can win with land, win with land. When you have to win with the water, win with the water. So 2 very different strategies here, and they're going to be squaring off. Maybe
absolutely. I'm not sure how I feel about these choices from the South YADAKK player, choosing to just weaken these warriors, but leaves the scout open to getting hit. Scouts have low defense, so they're not great in those situations. Nice explorer for South YADAKK for the host, but goes for the siege and it's easily repelled. I really like the choice of riders here. They're really helpful for defending. The coastlines are surprisingly obnoxious to attack, especially since we have this river that runs through the middle of the continents.
Orcas don't get the lighthouse.
Yeah, barely misses the lighthouse.
Yeah.
This is riders have been for a long time, even in the old naval system, fantastic for this kind of counterplay. Like if you want to play on the land, it is a little dangerous if the bridge here, allowing the veteran swordsman to road straight into you. But better than having another rammer by your capital, let's say.
Yeah, I think 2 veteran swordsman rammers towards that capital might have created some real problems. for
Yeah, when
YADAKK.
you look at this, this rider right here looks vulnerable. You know, the ship can come hit it. But I'm pretty sure all of us intuitively recognize, like right away, it really isn't that vulnerable at all. No one wants to trade their, 2 stars for the warrior, 5 stars for the scout, go up, get like a single hit, and then get killed immediately on the next turn. So the riders, their only job is to go up to the shorelines, and as long as you're just preventing the opponent's scouts from heading up to the shorelines, because you can go up, smack them, and then bounce back. What are their scouts doing? As long as you can make sure that you're unsieging like this Giaz city, where it's very convenient on these ocean tiles to attack from, you're a-okay, and you just get your Grand Bazaar, you get your Giants up. You got a good game plan going for you.
Player does not recognize that they can send that veteran swordsman in, or chooses not to.
Yeah.
Goes for defenders though. This is helpful for getting some tankier naval units.
It responds with their own veteran swordsman now.
The key here, though, is that we see really 2 positional weaknesses for the Urkaz player. Their capital, and then that city all the way in the east. Otherwise, their position's super solid. It's a tough nut to crack. Lots of options for those riders. Meanwhile, the other player has quite a few positional weaknesses. That city with the bridge is a bit of a liability. Their capital is hard to defend. Like in the middle of nowhere, only 1 city close to it. That doesn't bode well. And their cities are spaced quite far apart. So defending them on land is also tricky if it comes to that.
And crucially, they're going to not be having this Grand Bazaar that our Urkaz player got their giant up. Looking at another giant over here. Looking at just a few other giants later on with some other techs. And we're looking over here, like the most expensive road connections for cities ever. It would be wonderful to connect these cities, collect a capital giant, make use of that hunting rune from earlier. It's just not going to happen with such low income. You gotta invest in your economy early, because when you get to this point in the game where you're dumping all of your stars into your units and you have none left over, it's really difficult to get things. I think this was assumed to be a siege,
Yeah,
but
it
no
did not
such
go
luck.
through.
And that fateful bridge from earlier finally pops up, but not for the veteran swordsman to take this city.
Look at these riders putting in so much work. Really hard for the YADAKK player to do anything about those riders. Is going to try
There
to
we
connect
go. The
these
roads,
together.
they all pop down.
But that is a
Save some
lot of
stars for last
stars.
turn.
Oh, man. That's like 8, 9 roads. I see 7 roads, actually. Yeah, that's 7 roads.
21 stars.
That is a huge
Even
investment.
after the big income boost they got, that's almost all the income they have. Just on roads, not like the fruits and
Nice double
animals and
giant this
such.
turn, though. That's going to help them a lot.
But yeah, they finally fixed their economy, which was causing them some problems earlier. But now these bridges breaking through, and they've got they're being contested on the waters. This one port.
That turn that they spent saving up to get these giants was a turn that they weren't making units. And that gave the Urkaz player the opportunity to get in the water and do some damage. And that is exactly what they are going to do. And just notice how well these riders trade with everything in the YADAKK player's position. I mean, they're using them to kill rammers, warriors, chipping away at some scouts. And most of the riders are staying alive. I mean, that is a huge mass of riders in the middle of this position.
Yeah, and this is what Astrio would have had, knight turn 4 turns ago.
Oh, take a look at this. This is interesting. So They push deep into the YADAKK position here, looking to basically land some deep riders to threaten the capital, because the capital's so weak. But our YADAKK player has a response, got the Juggernaut in the water, got a rammer, got a scout, has defenders, so has tanky naval units, and is able to actually launch a little bit of a counterattack. And this is the back and forth aspect of this game that we're going to see.
There we go.
For
Oh,
the
I thought they were
next
going to
few
land a
turns.
capital siege.
Yeah, looking for this, but this is not quite
Yeah, they had
going to
the
work
units
out.
for it.
I mean, these units are just going to get chopped down, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I thought they were just going to land the siege last turn, you know, take some stars.
Mhm.
They wouldn't have been able to block both warrior and, you know, the scouts in the water, like actually
And
hold it, but
this failed attack on the capital is quite costly to the Urkaz player. They lose a good number of riders and don't get much for it. Really just feed the YADAKK player some kills, but this is huge. Huge siege in the northwest, landing this 18 HP giant. Those rammers are too weak to do much about it. Oh
Killer
man,
Monument.
okay.
Oh,
There's
Here we
Houdini,
go.
Houdini.
Houdini.
Here's a Houdini. Love to see it.
Pop.
Huge twist of fate for the YADAKK player. And now they have a pretty healthy Juggernaut in the
All for that
southeast.
South Lighthouse, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Urkaz players, I mean, making a lot of gains over in the east. They're dominating, or at least soon to be. The rider plays may not have done a lot for them. It did get them the one lighthouse, which, you know, a couple short of Eye of God. The east one's pretty easy to get, the west one, not so much. But the other big thing it did was take scouts that would have been shooting maybe this Juggernaut, and instead turns them around on riders on land. You know, better value for them for sure, but it did allow them the space, opened up a window for them, window of opportunity, to start taking over the South Sea.
Yeah.
After the
And-
Houdini, things not so great over here. They are still going to be able to recover, though.
Yeah.
It's like they've got control of this water as well. And the question is, the Urkaz player, it used to be, you know, one player is going for the land, one player is going for the sea. The Urkaz player seems to have kind of both unlocked now, and they still have more income and a single city advantage. That's just more units that they can train. They're getting pretty close. Pop cap is a factor that they have to consider now. And the question is, the YADAKK player, maybe they got some giants, so maybe they're going to turn some things around. They send this giant like through the bridge to the city, maybe. But how are they going to turn things around? Doesn't look too great for them.
Yeah, it's just a very tricky position if you're YADAKK, because yes, you got that great Houdini, but the Urkaz player seems unfazed, just continuing to advance, maintain dominance in both waterways, and has many giants yet to attain, right? That's the other thing. And oh man, using that bridge
Oof.
marvelously to chip away at that Juggernaut,
Yeah.
that is beautiful.
That bridge play from earlier that's my play of the game. I love that bridge from earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now the YADAKK player is devoting resources to hitting that defense bonus rider that went and grabbed the lighthouse. And this is just giving the Urkaz player even more space to work with. More
You're gonna
room.
pick up
Gets
starfish.
navigation for those starfish. That is
Yeah.
a plus 16 stars.
Also
And
looking at
gets the lighthouse. Yeah.
very nice bomber spot right here. Once a bomber goes here, what attack do they have on this capital?
Oh man, yeah, look at that. Ooh.
I feel a little premature. Get splashed by the Juggernaut, but
Yeah, well,
regardless, yeah,
So
the
now it's
Juggernaut's
the race between both of them who gets the capital first.
absolutely.
yeah, which
The YADAKK
Juggernaut's
player
going to
is
make it?
desperately putting units into the northwest side of the map.
And there we
This
go.
is Eye of God.
Yeah, they get it. Those plays that they made for the South Lighthouse earlier finally paying off.
Yeah. And maybe giving the YADAKK player a lot of value with their Juggernaut here. Still having to contend with the YADAKK Giant marching into the middle of the map as well. This is complete chaos. There is counterattacks, desperate plays happening on both sides. That is a 38 HP Giant sitting next to the YADAKK player's capital, but it does not currently have a way to siege, so it is just going to remain there until it can get some help.
And using that Eye of God.
Yeah, there's the Eye of God Giant pop. I don't think a Houdini was possible there, but
No blocking the
because of that
bridge.
bridge, maybe there was a construction idea to destroy the
Yeah.
bridge first. That would have been insane.
Yeah, destroy the bridge and then Houdini. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, crazy place.
And this is about when the game is going to be decided, right? Because this position where both players have now identified the weakness of the other player, which is their capital, are going to be trying their best to make something happen. But it seems like the Urkaz player is beginning to lock down the position. The YADAKK player just can't put units in the water anymore. There are 3 scouts coming in on that side, and the Urkaz player is making a play.
Man. Veteran rider
the Northwest
siege.
City with a veteran rider siege.
Yeah,
that is
protected bombers.
gorgeous.
Yeah, that's
Scouts doubling up
game.
here. Yeah, they just
That
resign.
is
They
game.
don't see it. Wow, 27 turns slugfest. That's YADAKK.
Yeah. So what would you say was the main like the breaking kind of point in this game?
Was strategically, I think the Urkaz player was a little stronger. They were able to, make the best of everything. They were, they didn't have the best stuff on the water, so they defend themselves. Then they go ahead and they push in the water. It's really a question of their tactics. We divide it into the macro strategies, and then the micro, like the turn to turn, like what tile am I going to put this ship on? And both players, it's a live game, so we're going to forgive if not machine-like precision and everything. But what you'll see is that some players, they take advantage. Like even if they don't make it perfectly every turn, and they give their opponent, opportunities that they didn't need to. Over the course of a longer game like this, it's 27 turns. They're going to be making slightly better plays turn after turn after turn, and you're going to be noticing it. And what happened here, in my opinion, anyways, is that we saw the Urkaz player. I mean, they were like their landmass that they had after this bridge idea was missed. They did just have a much more defensible position, just up that one single city the whole game. But in addition to that, they were able to accumulate advantage between the unit interactions, even if not every turn was like perfect for them, and they didn't, just increase their advantage every single turn. On the whole, even as it goes back and forth between them, it just keeps growing and growing for them until they're able to turn it into this. Just 3 scouts, a giant, and nothing to defend this capital.
Yep.
Yeah,
any last thoughts,
Chris?
Chris? Sorry.
The big thing for me, at least, is that what we saw here showcases, as Inno said, superior strategy, but it also showcases something about YADAKK, which is that markets are very prevalent in other tribes, because tribes like Hoodrick, tribes like IMO, have the ability to both maybe get a lot of tech, but also have great market spots most of the time. In this game, the players don't have fantastic market spots, so there's much less of an incentive, despite being right next to trade, for them to go for it. And that means that this is kind of a low eco game for how late into the game we are. It's turn 27, and both players are still below 30 stars per turn. Well, I guess the Urkaz player has just gotten above 30 stars per turn. But that is pretty low, all things considered, especially for naval engagements, where it costs 5 stars to turn a single unit into something that will do something useful for you. You can only do that 6 times on your turn, and if you do, bombers 15 stars, that's half your income on a single unit. So these players have to be really judicious with their star expenditure. Apologies.
Mm.
And that means that they really have to be careful because it's easy to overextend, and that's what we saw coming out of the YADAKK player in the south, was that they spent a lot of their income getting these 2 giants in their cities, and that meant that they lost control of the water, and I think that really hurt them going into the late game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now we are doing a break from YADAKK and we move on to Polaris.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
These will be exciting, fast-paced games. Perhaps let's introduce the players here, because this is a fun one. So we have Jacek, Poland.
Jacek.
Jacek, thank you. I remember asking you this before.
Yes, Jacek.
Jacek, Poland in the south, and Anva, who I believe is in the north. And both of these players on Ronin. Jacek actually sits... Actually, I think Jacek is technically on the more advanced team than Anva, but for anyone who's been in the challenge mode scene, and what I mean by advanced team is the team that plays higher level games.
Okay.
But if anyone who knows Anva will know that Anva is one of the best live game players on challenge mode right now. Top 10, maybe even top 5 at the moment. So,
yeah, I was surprised hearing you say what?
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing. Anva likes fast-paced games where there's not too much communication, stuff like that. More laid back.
Okay.
And so
they are not playing a lot of team games, right? The 24.
Yeah.
Okay.
But both players very strong, very strong players.
Mm-hmm.
And what map type are we playing on Inno?
Archipelago. Terrain extending kind of stuff, making the ice. Now, what's really interesting is that, this is the old pole, though, and this is the new pole up here. Makes sense.
That's...
the host in a way. Ooh, straight for the lighthouse. Yeah. With you always love using your Mooney to skate and then pick up a village really early on. And, we see the single tile over here, land. Hoping that we'd find a village, sending it on the fruit, but no luck for Anva early on. A shame.
Yeah, this is really surprising because this is quite a big land mass as it comes to Archipelago. You don't see that usually.
Yeah, and
that many squares in bunched up
one
together.
Isn't even over, and there's a reversal of fortune immediately. Everything was looking great for Jacek until. What are these resources on this village?
Yeah.
Where are they? The one fish?
Mm.
Meanwhile, I was like, oh, I've got a ruin. I wonder if it'll give me stars or population this time.
Yeah. And oh no.
Dead end.
Yeah, this is somewhere you want to send another Mooney to skate, make more ice and expand this way.
For context, if this was any tribe except Polaris, that would just be one tile of land in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. I'm imagining you get your port and you're like, okay, I'm gonna send on the land here and then just back to the port.
Yeah.
No. And this is one of the unique things about Polaris that Anva is not going to have as great access to, just because no ice. These kinds of outpost connections, 2 outposts gets upgrades on both of the cities. Yeah, the Explorer.
Oh gosh! Oh no!
Yeah. Similarly to Symanti, they don't have the ability to go on the water. So your explorers are only going to go on those land tiles, and if you haven't created any ice, maybe needed to stick with a workshop there.
Yeah, that was a risky explorer for Jacek.
Explorer ruin for Anva, and yeah, it really opened up. But these Moonies, probably Jacek's going to go ahead and pick up this ruin first. So it has to go for fishing here.
And we're recognizing, hey, workshop's pretty dang solid here. No reason for me to get an explorer. And gets a Mooney right away. Moonies are super important in matches like this. Building that ice. All right, we need to talk about this.
Yeah. Did we see this? Okay, Anvarone discovered the secret of Polarism. Now, Polarism, fishing for that upgrade. Okay, I understand it. 7 stars in for Or no, already had the city. 10 stars. 10 stars buying Polarism this turn. That's whoo. Okay. Now, what units are going to take advantage of Polarism? I mean, the Warriors, maybe eventually this guy will. But we don't
Because
even have
the Moonies
sledding
are
yet.
not getting any kind of bonus with
Yes.
Polarism, right?
Yeah.
Units without skate gain the skate ability. So
Yeah, more or less.
pretty much, yeah. They get +1 movement on ice is the key. But it turns your warriors into half of a rider because it still doesn't have escape, and it will make your riders quite potent if you choose to get them. But this is super unusual for 2 reasons. One, Anva knows that YADAKK is quite close. Saw that freeze from the Mooney earlier. If we look at Anva's vision specifically, right, can see this freeze, knows YADAKK is right there. Sleds are an attractive choice, if I'm being honest. Yes, your capital can't really get easy sleds, but you're also pop capped there, so you might not be able to get too many out of that anyway. But the second and third cities can quite easily get sleds. So this Polarism decision is really interesting.
Yeah, interesting is the right word here.
This is I will say it. This is off meta. This is absolutely not what we see most Polaris players do, and YADAKK demonstrates this. Sleds.
Yeah, sleds immediately.
Sleds. Yeah, what else is it?
You make your ice and you get sleds. You have your Moonies to make your ice, and then you get your sleds to attack the guy, and that's Polaris.
No exaggeration. Sleds are one of the most broken units in the game for the fact that they can move 4 tiles on ice and then they can run away 4 tiles. I mean, it's almost unbeatable for some other tribes to deal with in the late game when you have a massive army of sleds. And that's the theory behind it. But perhaps Anva can demonstrate that not everything rests on the shoulders of the sleds in this mirror.
A real quick chat, I want you to discuss, is this normal behavior, do you think? This does not seem intuitive to me. When you claim a ruin, like a veteran swordsman, the Mooney runs out of its ability, it gets pushed, and it does not freeze afterwards. The same thing will happen if you train a jellyfish. You can't move a jellyfish after it's trained, it turns over.
I'd say it shouldn't be like that.
Push it. It won't do anything to the tiles surrounding it. You think this makes sense, or does this bother you like it bothers me?
I'm not sure if it's the same thing with the jellies, because at some point Toby did a test, and I think when you push a jelly, then it attacks, the tentacles work. So
has that changed?
I don't know. So it was some time ago, so I can't tell if they adjusted it or not. But I would say this if Mooney is moves or is moved, it should freeze, because it's like an auto ability. So
yeah, that's my take, is that the ability is called auto freeze. So surely it should automatically freeze no matter what happens. And this is the power of sleds. They just chop through those Moonies.
No starfish for you. And again, just having ice on the capital, lets outposts work like this. Outposts are weird. I'm not going to talk about outposts any more than that, actually. I'll leave it at that. Look at this. Wonderful. The Mooney comes up, freezes, says, no, you're not taking that city. And then the warriors go ahead, block the swordsman, keep the Mooney nice and protected. Absolutely. And the swordsman's scared now. The swordsman's like, I have nowhere to go that isn't getting frozen by this Mooney.
And look at perhaps the jankiest outpost connection of all time. Going around the back, barely
around
making it
the
to
world.
The second city.
But all the way to the South Lighthouse.
That is amazing. Now can
look
drop
at this.
the third outpost and get stars back. And train. This is Polaris warrior spam. I am. I can't believe my
how
eyes.
did you get this lighthouse before me? What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's my lighthouse.
I'm descended from a family of esteemed lighthouse operators. I'll have you know.
Hoping to, yep.
And then
Counter
Yasik
pick.
says, no way. Because that's my lighthouse too. And then a vet
Oh.
swordsman siege. Ooh. Oh, that's going to be tricky. But the Mooney is there to deal with it.
Warriors are providing some valuable zone of control here as well.
And the Warriors are surprisingly annoying with Polarism. You think you're safe, but this weird interaction of, wait, why is the Warrior moving 2 tiles, is all of a sudden throwing Yatsik for a bit of a loop. And
Sure not to
now
step on
Anva
the
on
ice here.
turn 10 picks up sledding. I might be bold in saying this, but this might be one of the latest turns we've ever seen a top player pick up sledding in a Polaris mirror like this.
There we go. Polarism again.
Yeah. Just being so
Ooh.
annoying. Free Spirit Ruin.
Well,
Would love to see Knights here. That would
and
be hilarious.
Not just Free Spirit. Look at this. Boom.
Stars, Free Spirit.
Yeah, so we got
Oh, come
27
on,
stars.
Yahtzee.
this
Knights, come
turn.
on. No Knights. Okay.
Oh,
fair.
okay. Well, hold on. Tons and tons of stars. Does not train a sled here. Does not train a sled here. Just on
Pop
this one
capped on
city.
Capital. Notably pop
Yeah.
capped on Capital.
Yeah, he's pop. Okay. Oh.
Veteran
That's
Warrior Siege. Oh man.
Just keep using Polarism to bully this. Oh,
Ooh.
This is brutal.
yeah. Cannot.
That's gonna try to pick up a
unsuitable for these.
Gami with the Gate of Power. Uses the veteran sled in the northwest to secure that village, but is giving up an entire city to Anva for this. And this is super important. Now Anva has 3...
Actually, 2 cities, because this one in the west, I think it was also Yatsek's, not Anva's.
Yeah, but I think Yatsik will be able to take it. That one with the veteran sled on it, I think he'll be able to.
Yeah, sorry, in the east. Yeah, the one that is close to this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was able to take that from the undefended Mooney. Yeah, look at this. Go ahead, capture the village. I will freeze you.
Yeah. And this is perhaps one of the strangest games I've ever seen of 196 Archipelago Polaris, where Polarism is putting in more work than it should be allowed to, considering that Anva has chosen to produce solely warriors up until getting sledding. And it's working.
Yep.
But notice, this is the
Like
trouble with current Gamis. They are just so weak. That is 7 health out of the 30. And the sled only took 7 in retaliation. The sled's saying, I just got away with murder, because that's not that shouldn't happen.
This is absolutely insane. Picks up the West Lighthouse, but even having captured this city before, taking an explore on it, hoping desperately that I would just go ahead, take up that lighthouse, and then head to the north maybe. The one lighthouse in their corner, their own corner, the one that's keeping them from Eye of God here.
Yeah. And I mean, you can see it on the top of the replay bar, but Anva's about to do some serious damage. That Gami is
this sled's just
gone.
Right.
That's a siege coming through with the block. And Yasik doesn't have too much to play for here. Good grief. Imagine your opponent not getting a single sled while you have basically 5 turns of getting sleds uncontested, and yet you can't break through. Gotta be one of the most frustrating experiences.
So my question here is, like, could Anva had known this, like, because this looks like a kind of like a, foresight gift that they had, because could we go back to this point where, yeah, because they had no vision. So why this polarism? Like, why? How would you know that this would be kind of this game changer tech instead of going something else or the meta?
We might be seeing a meta-breaking strategy here. That might be what's going on.
Okay.
I would also say that Anva knew, at least to some extent, that they were close enough together for polarism to be effective, and that if Anva went for riders, they would be very, very useful in this position. It never happened, but I could see Anva choosing to pick up polarism with the idea to go riding later, and then being kind of surprised at how well the warriors were doing on their own.
Okay, so it was kind of a lucky shot. Not like
This is an experience I've had many times commenting on the bullet replays, or live game replays rather, of different players. And Anva, always in challenger mode, always producing fantastic games to go over analyze afterwards. I will watch them. I will say, what did I just witness? Like, what just happened here? I will go ahead and you can contact these people, or just go ahead and I start typing in my DMs, and I'm like, Anva, like this game, this turn, like this play, what was going through your mind? And then Anva will say, oh yeah, I was just kind of memeing around, just kind of a joke. I'm like, what? Okay, but like it was, the game-saving play that like you made with zero information on turn 6. Like the opening is the least well understood and probably the most important part of the game. Nava just dominates, like picks up polarism on turn 6. It's like, what? How do you figure this stuff out? And then Nava's like, well, I'm a genius, so like.
Yeah, we have to do another video with the one that we did on Polychamps with rats, and kind of do this section of Anva's brain, because I think it works differently than any other player in the.
If you want to be, improve your Polytopia, start, cashing out from the Polysseums and such, just be a genius. There you go. It's that easy.
Yeah, pro tip. Yeah.
All right.
Any other words about this one? I think it's this one is a kind of straightforward. This polarism play was the reason for Anva to actually win.
Absolutely, it was a fun one. It was a fun game. But the next one is going to be a little bit more classic, but it's going to contain some really fun plays in and of itself, and I'm quite eager to watch it.
Okay, let's move on to the next one.
So, looking at the players here, we have Joyful Sausage, who is better known as Faust in the community, in the East, and Sunflower in Dreamland in the West, who is better known as Sunnyflower in the West. Sunnyflower is mostly a challenger mode player. I don't think they're on Polychamps. They might be on the main server, but they don't really chat there. So they mainly play on challenger mode. Faust is active on Polychamps, recently rejoined, and has been playing in the Polysseums, and plays for Vikings.
You will find Sunnyflower on the main server, but in the Russian channel.
Fair enough. I'm so glad you knew that, because I would have never guessed.
Well, again, we're seeing something interesting. This capital is just an poll, just any average poll, and this one is the poll new, so.
We'll see if the new Polaris can beat a Polaris. And interestingly, this has happened again. Sending the Mooney back. Perhaps Sunnyflower recognized that there may be a village there because of the fruit and the fish, but finds a ruin instead. Not too disappointing. We'll see what it gives them.
Hunting,
and there it is. Hunting. First tech.
This is the thing you gotta react to what resources you have. Ooh, population.
Yeah, nice population ruin. That's really going to help Sunnyflower with their economy. Yep, going immediately
Ice
for that
fishing.
lighthouse
I'm
because
gonna
with
see Polarism before the third city, I guess.
oh my goodness, that would be
Oh, that's
something.
a crazy explorer, and it just connects. Moody has a single tile. This ice was not here. I'm gonna have to turn off shared fog then. There we go.
Yep, getting the economy up. Faust has really fantastic economy right now for this stage in the
Not so
game.
lucky with the explorer.
Yeah. But Sunnyflower eager to respond. This is fantastic because of that lighthouse can get the level 3 in capital and then also the level 3 in the second city. Lots of space to train units can go sleds basically immediately and the tech is very cheap. Huge pop
Counters with his
ruin.
own pop
Ooh,
ruin. Yeah, some
nice.
more stars. And
And
then
picks up a
2
fourth
sleds.
city. Sunnyflower looking to do the same, now has targets in the position. Those cities near Faust are great pickups if he can get there.
Yeah, and this is a very effective block. It keeps us Mooney safe, nice and alive by zone of controlling.
Absolutely. And
Then
both players are
put
going to go
some,
sleds here.
yeah, some pressure on this city.
But now, Sunnyflower, despite having this slow opening, is up cities.
Yeah. I'll turn fog off for a second. Just get the lay of the land, shape of the map. With this Mooney backwards, a little slower expansion, maybe could have pushed straight for this village and then, let's say, been on here instead of pushing all the way back for ruin, claiming the ruin, taking a few turns walking back here. This city would be, pretty difficult to defend, of course, but possible, let's say. Get some sleds to do that as well. Maybe a little overextended in that case. No wonderful pop ruin earlier either. But regardless, the map we end up with is these 5 cities stretched out. We have the line versus here, less the line, more the grid. The big thing being no ice here makes it difficult to coordinate attacks between these two groups. Any defense on this city, not on this city right here has to come from north of the capital, and this other city can't really participate. Like you can send have one sled, mirror Faust, or sorry, mirror Sunnyflower. Go ahead and drop your own sled on the mountain just to defend that area. But that makes this city of big vulnerability. And the same thing, these sleds from the capital, they don't really have a good way to turn around and start attacking this city, Ilan. It's tough. It's tough. Sunflower up the single city. Let's see if this ruin changes things. Probably going to be able to pick up this village.
Chooses to kill that sled. Huge
Yeah,
star ruin.
stars, wonderful.
That's
Another
fantastic.
ruin in this battle.
Can now pick up some much needed upgrades. Equalize, maybe even exceed Sunnyflower on economy. But Sunnyflower fires right back with a population ruin. That is going to allow for a very easy Gami. Very, very
nice
easy.
siege, and if we turn fog on, nice capital vision.
Yeah. Climbing
Another
really
explorer
paying
going
off.
for the
Oof.
lighthouse, maybe. Yeah, and there's that
Oh
one
my
tile of
God.
land that makes
Gets
it
the
possible.
lighthouse. Can
And
get the
after that,
Gami with that one outpost. And 5 fish in that North City. Jeez.
yeah, easy another Gami there.
Yeah. We don't, we haven't talked too much about Gamis and their, impact on the game, but when you get them this quickly, right, it can be very impactful.
Yeah, the big problem I'm seeing here is that a lot of stars went into getting us Gami. Not a lot of stars went into sleds on these cities, and I'm doing a quick sled count. 1 sled, 2 sled, 3 sled, blue sled, dead sleds, versus lots and lots of these sleds.
I know math.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good math.
Unfortunately for Sunnyflower, the capital still has a problem, with ice. Not really getting this sled anywhere. But I think these sleds are going to disappear and then maybe even take the Mooney with them. I'm not sure how. It doesn't look like it's going to be easy by any means to defend this city because they're going to have to freeze it instead of unsieging.
One
Go
sled,
straight for the Mooney.
2 sled.
3
Zero
sled
sled,
and
yeah.
dead sled.
Yeah. Very well blocked.
As we can see, Inno's math is impeccable as usual.
I try.
And Faust continuing to pick up workshops. And I really like this, right? No need to pick up explorers. You have the vision you wanted. Better to just grow the economy. Up
Yeah,
like 6 stars per turn.
Yeah, equalized that city count. But, ooh, maybe needed to chain a sled down there. A couple more sleds in the area. Yeah, and using every star to get this push. Now with this Gammy right here, the task of defending the city much easier. Like more than it being easier. Like maybe it's even possible.
Oh wow!
And there we go.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier, the very start of it. In the abstract, but a normal game like Polaris versus some other tribe on the water. Polaris makes ice, you break ice. Very simple, very straightforward. Here, it's about controlling ice, and this is exactly what I mean. Not all ice is good for you as Polaris in a mirror. The ice that helps out your enemy, especially not. That's the worst kind of ice possible. And by breaking all this, the sleds don't even have an opportunity to get this unsiege to kick off this sled from the city. Fortunately, Gammy there, Sunnyflower able to keep their city a little longer. If it's not the best that it's not producing any stars. And there we go. Just this is what Chris was talking about. The Gambies just do not have a ton of defense. It just makes sense. Take those kinds of damage trades, even if you're not getting anywhere close to killing. Pretty aggressive with the explorers. I mean, it did work out with that Northern Lighthouse. But I do have to, kind of question maybe not so much the execution because it did work, but the idea itself even. Because of just how many problems have been caused by not having those sleds for the few turns that they were missing. Ooh. I don't think that got me surviving. I'm pushing all of these sleds over into the west to defend. But, one Gammy here after this one is unfortunately, meets its fate. But the sleds keep coming out, and it's a pretty, as far as you're going to get in Polytopia anyways, fairly symmetrical position. 5 cities on 5 cities, each with 1 Gammy.
But what Sunnyflower lacks here is space. Just very few places to push those sleds. Not a lot of space to train them.
Yeah, and then the
look
roads.
At this riding roads play from Faust. Freezing the opponent's Gami. Sunnyflower can't really do anything about it. And now the sleds are just pushing in for free, chopping away the Gami, breaking the ice. Ooh. Devastating play. Devastating. And why do you think Sunnyflower decides to resign here?
I think it's this ice tower right here. Gammy's gone. Going to get absolutely destroyed on the next turn. Your city Anon is weak. You're constantly getting sieged here. Any unsiege is going to put a sled on the city that it just gets killed. Like the damage trades are not working in your favor. This is as they keep trading here, they're trading unit for unit. Normally that you just look at it and say, oh, I guess you're losing the 2 stars. But really what you're losing is a whole city because let's go ahead and look at this. No population on the city. And I think we all understand why. Haven't been able to train any units here. Every unit that's been on here has been coming from a different city. So effectively, in a game like this, where it does depend a lot on just the number of sleds you have, and it's about numbers, trading down, and the person who just keeps pumping out more sleds trades down to a point where they have 10 sleds and you have none. This city being gone is absolutely like gives the decisive edge to Faust here. Huge weaknesses.
Yeah. One question, because I missed that. Why would they get the city wall in this western city?
Makes it this city it's all about initiative. Like this city and this city, let's say these two are pretty equal. Sunnyflower has a bunch of sleds over here, like just a single sled here. Sunnyflower starts sieging over and over again. Just keeps making more sleds from these cities, just keeps sieging. We get a similar situation to what's going on over here, maybe.
Okay.
But the opposite happened, and a little more concretely, like this city is much more easily defended from these sleds, which can actually reach. Whereas this city, not so much with the land tiles around here. Very difficult to defend.
Okay.
So the wall is just a little extra boost.
Yeah. Okay, so we are back to YADAKK now. The one final game of the highlights.
Absolutely. Hopefully a thrilling conclusion.
Yeah. Let's go.
And perhaps something new that we have not seen in any of the games thus far.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but we actually have seen both these players before.
Oh no! Tragic.
That's right. It's YADAKK, and it's Faust.
Okay, so at least a different setup, so...
Indeed.
Yeah,
and it's YADAKK.
Yes. Back to YADAKK.
It's YADAKK on Conti, or it is Continents? Ooh. So we have Joyful Sausage, again, Faust, over in the west, as the host, versus YADAKK Poland, over in the east. And I'm looking at this and I see, fruits and stuff, resources that indicate a village. And then I turned here and I see fruit, singular. Interesting.
Oh, but it doesn't matter because the village was there the whole time. Gonna capture that right away. This is the common YADAKK opening where you're going for road connections rather than a tier 1 tech. Meanwhile, Faust opting for the hunting branch instead. Going to be able to pick up upgrades in Capital and C2.
To, place a road where this mountain is, connect all 3 cities, but no such luck. It's very, it's kind of a gamble where your first road goes, because it can be very important, opening up your upgrades for other cities. And it works out for YADAKK, does not work out so much for Faust. But all the same, picking up 4 villages gonna have 5 villages over on this landmass, and then fighting maybe in this water over here.
What does
maybe
we're
gonna see some bridges.
Is
Could we
getting
switch the fog to?
Yeah. What does work out for Faust here is getting the animals in each of his cities, but looks like he's going to be down a city at least temporarily. That is oh man. I mean, I think we can see what YADAKK is planning here. That port, 3 tiles away from the capital.
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking back to the last Continents YADAKK game. We see the road here. Like, we're YADAKK, we see this road here. And I'm thinking, whereas it was, you can put your, units in the port, make them scouts. And then you don't want to put them on the shorelines. Your opponent can just get riders and start smacking them. It's really easy for them. I'm looking at this. You don't even have to put it in the port and then go up to the shoreline. Any adventure into the water is going to put you scout or even just raft in that danger zone. Yeah, and we're going to see fishing picked up before the ruin, hoping probably to get sailing or ramming. And especially seeing this port, Seeing these borders pop up, not too happy with that, I assume.
Faust is like, huh, curious. My opponent has put a port in range of anything that I have on my landmass. That's interesting of them. Going to be able to connect together the cities with roads, and that's going to facilitate some level 3 upgrades here quite easily. Using organization, and just has a ton of resources to work with, right? Easy giant with farming in second city, 4 population out of the 6 needed for a giant in capital. And then the monument can go basically anywhere.
Anything happens, I'm wondering, some of the things that I'm seeing in this position, just the things that I might be thinking about, looking at my resources, like there's a lot, it's very close. This city isn't connected yet. We have 4 population here. That's just one shy of getting that giant. And there's a few ways that we can manage that. There's a lighthouse over here. It's not too far away. We already have fishing. So maybe we go ahead and pick up a port on this city after the 5 stars come back from that last upgrade. Have just enough. But the problem with that is that you'd really love to get maybe a warrior, something around your capital. You don't want to get, let them go ahead and siege you too easily. Although if they do, if you're a veteran swordsman, if you move it south, it's not the worst thing in the world. And that's the kind of things that I'm wondering, like, how they tackle this situation. They have a lot of different options. They go aggressive down here, get some more units, or are they just focused on getting their giant? It also helps them out with their expansion, but it is pretty expensive. Yep, and they go for the port.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah, it's connecting together cities using ports. Also creeping fairly close to a giant here. Only needs actually the same as Faust, a population and the road connection.
Yeah, just that the lighthouse is a little more difficult for them to pick up.
Yeah, but I don't understand this port play because they have vision on their opponents, so it's like...
Yeah, it was a strange play and immediately gets punished for it, right? That raft is just going to get
feel bizarre.
Eaten.
And there's the last population. Just
YADAKK kind of rewarded with this beautiful middle of the ocean city here.
Well, is it rewarded for this west port?
Not
nice
really,
get some
really.
Or is it really this port here?
Yeah.
But YADAKK first to get the super unit, and we're going to see, instead of the lighthouse, just another port here.
Yep.
This port a little stronger, less susceptible to getting smacked in the same way.
And putting a vet sword there immediately is pretty tough for YADAKK. It can become, like a rammer or something like that. Could even threaten a siege if YADAKK were to try to place a bridge down. And then the Juggernaut can follow up immediately.
Yeah, Border Grove and Forestry for a while now. Border Grove, is it just for these two? Access these 2 water towers, some more ports. Looking at this as a naval game.
Perhaps Faust is eyeing mathematics here, and
another giant down the line.
And maybe markets.
Another vet swords.
I mean,
not
we'll
that
see.
Useful.
Look at that port, an extra population on the city at this point.
Yeah.
If East Park were here, yep, mathematics, exactly. Wait, mathematics before the ruin?
Interesting. But gets population for it, so not entirely unhappy with that.
Another
workshop. The swords is get dead.
And this is okay. Actually, I gotta talk about this again. What I talked about with Astria's game. Economic YADAKK is a thing. I don't think this is, too shocking to people. Again, referring to that Justini poll. Not like a blowout, just a split in favor of calling YADAKK aggressive. But workshop. It's turn 12 and they have 1 on their killer monument. Like they're buying mathematics and stuff instead. Like this is the way that you'll see YADAKK get played the highest of the high levels. Polysseum.
And now Faust is starting to consolidate a little bit, but YADAKK, huge navigation play, huge. That is 24 stars worth of starfish
That's
coming
kinda
his
crazy.
way.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. But no riders yet. Just because of how split off they were and how many stars it requires to go into the water. Faust is playing definitely for the late game. Stuff like the border growth here, mathematics, getting like another giant in the future. Not looking for, quick conversions, trying to play it out fast. YADAKK expansion. Got more cities, unless Faust goes ahead and explores to this lighthouse ever. But up a city, dominating on the water. This port here not helping out Faust all too much. No units to pump into the ports either. Tons of scouts and stuff. It's tough. Faust's goal is to just have more stars, more income, and that's difference in their number of stars is going to accrue turn after turn. He's going to survive until he starts thriving.
Absolutely. And there it is, catapults. We saw this in the
That's-
YADAKK Polysseum with Meister's defense on
Mhm.
lakes.
Yeah.
Getting catapults, using them to their peak effectiveness to hold off advancing juggernauts and rammers. And I think we might see that again here. Look at that juggernaut just getting absolutely melted. Completely, 40 health to 0 in just 2 turns.
I don't think they were
Unfortunate
too happy
Explorer
about the
ruin.
Explorer ruin, yeah.
Steps on a 4th starfish. That is 32 stars from navigation. That is a huge siege. Hang on.
Yeah, pause real quick. Look at the units. These guys don't unsiege. And even if they did, you don't want to be giving up this. Fortunately, there is a way. There's an economic way to survive. You can survive
There
anything.
is.
Oh, border growth now. He's
Faust
stealing all the
sees it.
resources from this north city. He doesn't care.
I mean, you gotta
A
do what
giant.
you gotta do, and that is a beautiful giant there. It's basically gonna close the door on any pressure YADAKK had in that area.
Yeah, it's
Right?
not
Bombers do damage,
great.
but they do splash damage. It's not a whole lot of single target damage.
Yeah. I wonder if this Juggernaut's just gonna go ahead and
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh
we're working
man.
on that.
Bombers
The
getting
catapult
melted.
taking out the Woo! The catapult just looking at the bomber like, doesn't care.
Yeah. YADAKK actually on the back foot a little bit because of this repulsion by way of Faust. And
They cannot
now
push with these catapults, and look at this.
oh my goodness, that is disgusting. Beautiful catapult push to hit that
Yeah.
veteran sword rammer. And it's just gonna get deleted. There's nothing you can do.
And the Juggernaut's pooling in, combining to make enough zone of control to actually protect these catapults.
Yeah. So YADAKK on the back foot, despite having naval control just a few turns ago. Faust doing an excellent job of leveraging that slight economic advantage and just having these really nice tier 3 units in the catapults can basically lock down YADAKK's ports, right? These catapults will just be able to pick away at these rafts. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, we're
And
gonna look at this. Trade.
There it is.
Mathematics and trade. The
Right,
Meister.
this is why sometimes it really works. Because yeah, YADAKK's not really keen on rushing trade most of the time, but when they have the opportunity, it's so easy for them.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the big thing, like looking back, like just a turn ago, before that first market came down, 32 stars per turn compared to YADAKK's 29, and you can notice that and be like, okay, you've got like 3 stars per turn. Like, let's say the game goes on like the last one did till turn 27, like that 3 stars is going to keep piling up until it's the difference of like 27 stars, however many units that gets you, whatever you want to buy. But now with the markets too, YADAKK has to make something happen. And these
Yeah.
juggernauts and catapults are saying, you're not going to make anything happen ever.
And
Yeah.
Faust is not done, right? With mathematics,
far
there's
from it.
more giants accessible in several of these cities, and these markets are only going to get better. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's a level 8 market right there. That is a substantial amount of stars per turn. If we look at the comparison, right, just a couple of turns ago, they were pretty even on stars per turn. Now, Faust up maybe 13, 15 stars per turn.
14.
Yeah.
And
So
let's like returning to that comparison from earlier, like the 3 stars per turn over the course of like 10 turns, like, you know, piling up. 14 stars per turn difference, you know, over 10 turns.
Yeah, crazy.
It's not the same at all, and
And
it
it's gonna be a little
doesn't
bit
stop.
more.
Just more markets this turn.
Yeah, that's another level 4 market. That's another market coming down.
Yeah, wait, what does Faust end out there?
52
stars per turn compared to YADAKK's 29.
YADAKK's 29. So that's it's a substantial difference. Getting close to doubling YADAKK's stars per turn. Beautiful strategy pickup here. This is going to help YADAKK try to play back into the water. But Faust is having none of that. Faust is saying, this giant is going straight for your city, and I know that you don't have anything to defend it with because you've just been spamming warriors and defenders this whole time. And
Another one.
what do? I mean, look at this pressure. There's some counterplay here. There's defensive options. There's a couple of juggernauts that are biting the dust on Faust's side. But this giant is unstoppable. There's nothing to be done. This giant's just gonna walk right in. You know, that forge spot is blocked by a forest.
Mm.
And
yeah, because now in the situation in the east doesn't look that grim, but in this southwest, this giant is like, that's
and
that's
let's
tough.
talk about the all-stars of this game. Those 3 catapults really put in the lion's share of the work here. I mean, just look at the kill counts on some of these catapults. Collectively, 8 or 9 kills due to these catapults. That is huge. That's frankly huge.
Yeah, that's what this is.
Yeah. And it propelled Faust to victory here. The choice to go mathematics, getting those markets up. Even if this game goes on for a few more turns, Faust's economic advantage is going to be completely insurmountable. He'll be able to make defenders, put them in the water, turn them all into rammers, and still have enough stars left over to train another batch of defenders afterwards. And that is just oppressive in a match where stars matter so much.
So what went wrong here for YADAKK?
Big strategy, difference in strategy. If YADAKK was going to make this work, you know, getting like the port here, maybe instead, you know, imagining a different version of it, like a bridge here, and then like, you know, getting nice or something. But I think we can see why, you know, such an approach isn't going to work. Like, YADAKK is very defensive. The strategy of, you know, an economic YADAKK built off of, I can defend my cities, then I can, you know, like looking at these resources specifically, like, you know, all the parts of the strategy like working hand in hand. Like, how does he defend himself? Well, he gets catapults and giants, you know, with mathematics, you know, one tech solution for that. And then with mathematics and all of these, he's YADAKK. He can go straight into trade. And then he's got a ton of stars and income based off of that.
I do think YADAKK could have created more time for himself to make some counterplay if he pressures Faust very early with riders or maybe even archers or something like that. Because what really gives Faust the edge in the mid game is that he equalizes the city disadvantage by picking up the 2 cities on that separate continent close to him. So if YADAKK chooses instead hey, I'm not going to get on the water right away. Instead, I'm just going to go full aggro and beeline for that capital. Then Faust says, wait, okay, maybe I can't really get on the water here. That might cause me to lose the game.
Yeah, this is like what I'm now thinking about this. This is the first game where I don't see any riders from like both players.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's very unusual.
It's the other interesting thing is that, you know, YADAKK doesn't need to buy riding to go get trades, so they don't even, they can just bypass it.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagining the same position, but instead of a port here, some bridges, some riders.
Yeah, I agree that the pressure here on the capital would work better for YADAKK instead of actually going sailing, even though he had a huge boost because he collected a lot of starfish there. So it's,
yeah, the starfish helped a lot, but it gave Faust some time to build up an advantage, and the bombers were not adequately defended. They took they sustained a lot of damage early on, and it turned them into pea shooters quite quickly. And that meant that, you know, hey, look, this bomber's just going to take some splash damage right away.
Survived one turn,
and now
then
in comes the Juggernaut.
1 health, 3 health. Oh,
yeah, that's a lot of stars.
Yeah, 34 stars of unit, just getting shredded that turn, and that's why it's so important to be able to protect them. And that's part of why I think one of the important strategic decisions about starfish is that, yes, you can rush them and you can go for that tech right away, but I also think there's something to be said for securing naval control first and then setting a few little dinky rafts out to pick up those starfish after you've already gotten naval control. I think if YADAKK had chosen to go that route and focus on rammers, focus on scouts, and then eventually pick up the starfish, that might have also been an effective choice.
Yeah, so 2 times during this live stream, not getting bridges was seriously punished, and those who could get the bridges were eventually lost. So
and to everyone playing in Polysseum, get bridges, because then we have more interesting games to talk about, and I like bridges, so do it for me, okay?
Yes, for Chris. Okay, guys, that's all we had for you today. Let's look at the poll. So I guess our audience is quite conservative, so they like YADAKK more than the Orcas, so it's 76 to 24%, 29 votes. Thanks everyone for casting your votes. But anyway,
I will throw in a vote for
okay.
I like their music a lot.
Yeah, it's playing now, so they are cool. And if you'd like to check them out and see how they look in the game, we had some samples during the stream. There's a link to our Steam shop, so you can go ahead and buy them, and they're also available on mobile, so go ahead and try them out. So that's it for today. Thank you guys in Inno and Chris for your commentary, some great thoughts, and I enjoyed it as always. Hope to see you in the next live streams and recorded videos in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, so see you on the next one. Good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the Polytopia on the square. So yeah, enjoy your night or day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.